G'day, legends. We're going to take a look at some plugins that feel like cheating. Plugins that are relatively easy to use, achieve a great sound, and are pretty quick to dial in. Plugins like this are really important so that you can have a smooth and effective workflow. Having tools that you can quickly grab because you know they're going to achieve a certain sound in a matter of seconds is very important when you're doing this stuff day in and day out. Some of these plugins I'm about to show you are really old. So I've been using them for many years, and some of them are quite new and are welcome additions to my workflow. So without further ado, let's check these plugins out. So our first plugin, an oldie but a goodie, is the Joey Sturgis Tones gain reduction. And this is basically an incredibly aggressive compressor. This works great for heavy vocals, anything where you want it to cut through the mix, screaming vocals, gruff vocals. It's an awesome compressor for just making vocals really stand out. It works good in like rock and pop stuff too. If you're going to use it in those genres though, your mix knob's your best friend because it is pretty aggressive. So blending it in as a parallel can work really well. So let's hear this in the mix with gain reduction and without gain reduction so you can hear exactly what it's adding to the vocal. So you can hear how it's pinning the vocal in place. It's also adding some brightness to it as well. It's just making that vocal pop and stand out so much better. Check it out on some clean vocals as well.
We're lost in the hollow space inside of self-surrender. We're built to break, so follow me.
So you can hear the character it's adding to the vocal. It's not just compressing it, it's also giving it a little bit of saturation, a little bit of grit, and it makes it stand out in a really good way. So if you need to quickly compress a vocal, make it stand out in a mix, this plugin works great. So our next one is a bit of a more recent plugin that I've been using, and it is the SSL X Saturator. It's just a really nice and easy to use saturation plugin that sounds great. I particularly enjoy it on drums and vocals, so I'm going to show it to you on those two things. First of all, I'm going to show you what it sounds like on the drum bus. And I particularly like just putting it on the drum bus and not doing anything. Just a little bit of color that it adds is great. So that's the default setting right there. And you can see it's at 0, mixes at 100%. I've pulled it down half a dB because it does get a little bit louder when you add it on because of the saturation that it's adding. So I've tried to like balance that out a little bit, but it's just adding extra weight and color. And it sounds really cool. Now, obviously you can push it harder and then you can play with the mix knob and get some good results as well. So let's boost this up a couple of dB, maybe like 3, pull this to 50% and check this out. Might need to pull this back a little bit further as well. It adds some really great character to the drums. Have a listen to it in the context of the mix. Definitely makes the drum sound a little bit more lively, which is great. Check it out on some vocals.
Obey not consent, this makes you content. And good fortune has you found, but soon it's erasing your pieces misplaced, and the pawns have knocked you down.
So you can hear it's thickening the voice in a really nice way, adding some nice color and weight to the vocal. Check it out in the context of the mix now.
Obey not consent, this makes you content. And good fortune has you found, but soon it's erasing your pieces misplaced.
So it really helps the vocal to stand out as well. It's kind of acting like a little bit of compression as well. Even though these vocals are already compressed, this is just like another stage of saturation, compression, gluing it all together and making it more present in the mix. And it just sounds really nice. So that's why I like to go for this plugin. It's like one big knob in the middle, mix knob, pull back the trim. That's usually all I really play with this. You can obviously play with all these other settings, but it's very simple to dial in. Okay, so our next one. This one is a fairly new one, but it's kind of based off of an old plugin. You would have heard of Waves R-Bass before, and this is basically like a good alternative to that plugin. And this one is from Modern Music Solutions called Sublift. Now, if you own R-Bass, you might not really need to use sublift. But if you're looking for a way to enhance some of the more subby frequencies in some of your instruments, like your bass guitar, or maybe like in your kick drum, or like some toms, this is a really cool way of doing it. And so I've got it on the bass in this mix just to bring in a little bit of sub information, because the bass tone was a bit more like mid-rangey sounding, and I wanted to just get a little bit deeper feeling. So again, really simple plugin, and it starts up in a really great place, the frequency at 80 hertz sub mode. And then all I'm doing is boosting the intensity. This is all I've touched, is that knob up to around 28%. Have a listen to what this is adding to our bass track. So it's giving that bass guitar some subby low-end rumble, which sounds really nice. So if you're listening in an environment where you can actually hear that low end, you would notice that it is adding some nice thickness and depth to the bass sound. Simple and effective. And of course, if we're talking about plugins that feel like cheating, we have to talk about Trigger 2, because Trigger 2 is just a really quick and easy and awesome way to make your live drums sound heaps better. If you have badly recorded drums, or if you're just trying to enhance your drums to sound larger than life, implementing samples with Trigger 2 is so easy. This is what the raw drums sound like. Not very crisp, not very punchy. Now this is what they sound like with Trigger 2 using some of my samples that I've created. So it sounds way better, way punchier, way more defined. And if you like the sound of these samples, make sure you check out the link in the description below. Go and check out the Birch Babinga sample pack. Picking up a copy of any sample pack or mixing course over on my website is just a really big support for the time that goes into making content on this channel. And you can hear how loading up some good sounding samples can immediately make your mix sound better. So that's why it feels like you're cheating when you use Trigger 2, because it's just so good. Our next plugin, Neuro Audio's Xvox Pro. I've been using this a fair bit recently, and you can just get great vocal sounds really quickly. It's got everything you need in it: compression, de-esser, EQ, it's got some reverb, delay, and it also has spatial effects like chorus and widening effects, which is really cool. So it's kind of like everything you need to get a pretty modern, good sounding vocal. And the presets are great. There's a ton of presets in here, and they'll get you started pretty quickly. So check this out.
Not a day goes by that I don't feel helpless. Every single moment slips out of my control. I used to think that I was so invincible, but now I know I'm weaker alone, but with you I am strong. I'm weaker alone, but with you I am strong.
Like, it just sounds great. Now, I've dialed this in myself, but let me just show you some of the presets because they're great. So let me show you how quickly it is to get a good sound.
Not a day goes by that I don't feel helpless. Every single moment slips out of my control.
That's a preset. That sounds great. What about something a bit darker?
Not a day goes by that I don't feel helpless. Every single moment slips out of my control.
So you get the idea. It's just super easy to get a vocal to sit in the mix really well with Xvox Pro. And you can flick between those presets until you land upon something that suits what you're doing, and then you can tweak it a bit further. It's just easy to use. It has pretty much everything you need for a good vocal sound. Okay, so our next plugin. This is the absolute cheat code for achieving that sweeping filter effect, that thing that you always hear at the start of a song or a build up to really hype up a section. This is pretty much this plugin. So check this out. So this is the ultimate hype plugin. So one knob filter. So this is a Waves plugin, and it is one knob. and there is a button here that changes the resonance. So basically underneath this plugin is basically just a low pass filter, and changing the resonance changes how high this peak is in the filter. And then you just sweep through. Now, rather than having to kind of set it up and automate it, all you have to do is just automate one knob rather than like playing with this. Obviously, you can do this stuff for free, but this plugin also has a very specific sound about it, and it's dialed in really well. If ever I need to make this kind of sweeping effect, this is my go-to. It's just very easy to use. As I said, one knob, very easy. And you can have a look. Basically, all we're doing here is automating this sweep up. I've got it on some guitars and on some drums at the start here, and you can have a listen to what it sounds like when we bypass it. And then we put our filter sweep one knob on. So dumb, so simple, so effective. That's why I love this plugin. So these next two plugins are from Otto Audio, and Otto Audio make great plugins for heavy productions. Now, obviously you can use plugins in loads of different genres. They don't have to just be specific to a certain genre, but the stuff that they make is really great for heavy music. And specifically, the 1111 amp sim is one of my new favorite amp sims for heavy guitar tones. It just sounds really brutal. So have a listen to what this sounds like when we kick it on and off. We've got it in the downtune preset. And what I love about this amp sim is how many presets there are. There is a ton of presets to go through, and you can find a tone that works really great for you, and then you can start tweaking it. So it sounds great. You can hear how dumb it sounds when you switch just back to the DI, but it's turning that DI into this awesome, heavy, brutal tone, which just works great. These guitars are in a low tuning as well, and it just makes them sound awesome. They don't sound flabby. They don't sound undefined. They sound crisp and articulate. So that was just a handful of presets, and you can already hear how many different tones are in this one amp. And that's without even starting to play with the parameters. But what I love is that the presets sound good, and it makes it really easy to get a sound to start working with quickly. Now, the next plugin that I'm finding really awesome to use is the More is More. It's like an exciter, a saturator, a clipper, all built into one. It just makes things loud and exciting. It's really cool. Again, some really great presets to get you started. A preset that I really like is the snare crack preset. Chuck this on your snare bus or just on your snare channel, and you'll get instant crackiness added to your snare drum. So check this out. So you can hear it's adding that really nice crack and excitement to the top end, which is what you need in a mix where the snare needs to cut through. So this is a really nice way of doing it. And the same deal, if you're working on a production where you want to get more click and attack out of your kick, using the kick fat or the kick lift setting is a really great way of doing this quickly. So check out this kick lift preset. Really adding some nice excitement and cut to that kick sound. And then you can tweak it even further. So how good's that? If you love that really crisp, articulate attack on a kick sound, that's a really great way of doing it. This is great on loads of stuff. You can use it anywhere to add extra excitement. You can use it for adding a bit of clipping to your mix. You can make things a little bit louder, add saturation. It's basically just a really awesome saturator slash exciter slash clipper. Like, it's more is more. It does a lot. So it's a lot of fun to use, and it also just sounds great. Guys, if you want to grab any of the Otto Audio plugins for yourself, there's a link in the description below, and there's a very special discount code down there for 50% off. So definitely worth checking that out. These are some really cool plugins, and that's just a killer deal. So another oldie but a goodie. This is a Waves plugin. It is the CLA effects. And basically, anytime someone wants that radio effect or that megaphone speaker effect, this is the plugin I reach for. You can do this in a couple of seconds and it sounds really cool. All right, you know the effect I'm talking about? I think that just sounds so cool.
It's where you find me.
So it's crazy, right?
It's where you find me.
Couple of different settings. You can go from a telephone, filter sound, slightly different.
It's where you find me.
Different types of distortion.
It's where you find me.
Delay.
It's where you find me.
Put widening effects on it.
It's where you find me.
So it's just a fun plugin for just dialing in effects really, and just kind of like the classic kind of effects, the speakerphone thing, slightly distorted voice kind of effect, kind of filtered, maybe a little bit chorusy and wide. Like it kind of does all of that stuff with just a couple of little clicks of the mouse and you kind of get there. That's what I like about this plugin. Super quick and easy to use. Someone's like, can we do this effect? I'm like, sure. Boop, load it up. And there we go. So I know you can achieve this stuff by using a bunch of different plugins and stacking them together, but this is a convenient plugin. It's just everything's here and it's done in a couple of seconds. And that's what I like about it. So this next one is another older Waves plugin, the Renaissance Axe. And basically it's a really simple compressor for guitars and it just works really well. So you can hear when it's compressed, it sounds a lot nicer. It's a lot more controlled, a little bit less dynamic, just kind of glued together a bit better. And it's so easy to dial this in because basically you just pull down the threshold, get the amount of gain reduction, and then you just play with the makeup gain to level match it. And then if you want less attack of the guitar, you just bring the attack forward. If you want to let more transient through, you just bring it back. It's really quite easy and it sounds good. So that's what's good about it. I'll show you another plugin that I really like to use from Waves. It is the CLA bass. So whether you just put this on your DI or whether you run this after an amp sim, it just depends on the sound that you're trying to achieve. But either way, it can work really great. This plugin kind of has R-bass built into it. Essentially, you can kind of enhance the sub with this sub slider, which is really cool if you have a bass that needs thickening up. And then as well as a couple of different distortions, some chorus on bass can sound really cool. Couple of different compressions, and then just some little EQ sliders to dial it in. You can get a pretty good bass sound out of this, or you can simply enhance the bass sound that you already have and make it sound a little bit better. So you can see how easy it was just to dial in a nice little bass tone there, and it makes the bass sound nice and open, gives it a really good tone, takes away a bit of the woolliness that was going on. So that's why I like this plugin, because it's a great enhancer for bass. Even just like a little bit, couple little moves can make a really big difference. So that concludes this round of plugins that feel like cheating. And I know there's plenty more out there. And if you have some plugins that you think feel like cheating, drop them in the comments below. I want to know what plugins you use that help you get something done quick and easy. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to visit my website in the link below. Picking up a sample pack or a mixing course is an awesome way of showing your support. If you're interested in learning a little bit more about my Birch Babinga sample pack for use within Trigger 2, then check out this next video coming up.